How one hospital orderly became America's deadliest angel of death. Some killers hide in shadows, some hide in plain sight. Donald Harvey hid in a hospital uniform, smiling in hallways, helping nurses, caring for patients, all while quietly taking their lives. For nearly 2 decades, he became America's deadliest angel of death, exploiting trust, authority, and vulnerability to kill dozens of people without raising suspicion. Donald Harvey was born on April 15, 1952, in Butler County, Ohio, the oldest of three children born to Ray and Goldie Harvey. His early life was marked by trauma and instability. From the age of 5 through 18, he suffered repeated sexual abuse from both an uncle and a neighbor, experiences that left deep psychological scars. At home, chaos and neglect were constant, and academically, Harvey struggled. He eventually dropped out of school in the ninth grade, but later earned a GED through correspondence. To neighbors and teachers, he seemed like a quiet, withdrawn, and unremarkable child, a perception that would allow him to hide his darker impulses later in life. As a young adult, Harvey bounced between low paying jobs, struggling to find stability. In 1970, at age 18, he began work as an orderly at Marymount Hospital in London, Kentucky. The role was mundane, changing beds, moving patients, delivering food trays, and assisting nurses. But it gave him access to vulnerable individuals. Just months into the job, he committed his first murder. On May 30th, 1970, he smothered 88-year-old patient Logan Evans with a pillow and plastic sheeting. Over the next 10 months, he killed at least a dozen more patients at Marymount, taking advantage of those who were elderly or terminally ill, their deaths unlikely to raise suspicion. Over the next 15 years, Harvey moved through multiple hospitals in Kentucky and Ohio, including the Cincinnati Veterans Administration Medical Center and later Drake Memorial Hospital in Cincinnati. At each of his facility, he refined his methods, smothering with pillows or plastic, turning off oxygen tanks, injecting poison into IVs or feeding tubes, and contaminating food or water with cyanide, arsenic, or rat poison. Many deaths appeared natural, caused by age or illness, and colleagues joked about the number of patients who died under his care, never suspecting the truth. Harvey initially claimed he acted out of mercy to ease suffering, but over time his motives shifted toward control and power. He selected victims who frustrated him, complained, or simply were in his way. His kills were calculated, often performed when other staff were absent, and he manipulated hospital routines to avoid detection. Among his known victims were Helen Metzger, 82, with heart problems, injected with cyanide via IV, causing sudden death misattributed to a heart attack. Henry Howler, 76, with advanced lung disease, smothered while nurses attended to others, death attributed to respiratory failure. James Peluso, 65, post-surgery, poisoned with arsenic in food, died of post-operative complications. John Powell, 43, motorcycle accident patient given cyanide via IV. His sudden death triggered the investigation. Margaret Cuckrow, 79, with dementia poisoned through her feeding tube, death misattributed to disease progression. In total, Harvey claimed responsibility for as many as 87 victims, though 37 have been confirmed. He evaded suspicion for years by performing his job well, smiling in hallways, helping nurses, and blending in, all while leaving a trail of death behind him. The investigation began in earnest after Powell's death in 1987. The autopsy detected cyanide, triggering an intense review. Authorities analyzed hospital death records and noticed the pattern. Many deaths coincided with Harvey's shifts. Hospital staff, previously silent, came forward, some anonymously reporting suspicious deaths to a local news station. Investigators exhumed bodies, conducted toxicology tests, and cross-referenced deaths with Harvey's schedule, establishing a pattern of lethal activity. Faced with mounting evidence, Harvey confessed. In August 1987, he pled guilty to 24 counts of aggravated murder, four attempted murders, and 1 count of felonious assault. Additional pleas later brought the confirmed total to 37, though he maintained he had killed many more. Psychiatric evaluations described him as a compulsive killer, driven by the thrill of power and control, not by clinical insanity. Harvey received multiple consecutive life sentences and was incarcerated at Toledo Correctional Institution in Ohio. For decades, he remained behind bars, largely isolated. On March 28, 2017, he was discovered severely beaten, by inmate James Elliott, 44, reportedly connected to relatives of some victims. The attack left Harvey unconscious with extensive head and facial trauma. He died 2 days later on March 30th at age 64. Elliott faced indictment for aggravated murder, felonious assault, weapons possession, and evidence tampering. The aftermath left families, the community, and the legal system reeling. Victims' relatives expressed shock and betrayal, grappling with the fact that their loved ones had been killed in a place they trusted to be safe. One family member said, "We sent them to the hospital to be safe. We never imagined the danger was inside the building." Another remarked, "It's not just the death, it's the betrayal. He took our loved ones, and no one knew for years." In court, prosecutors emphasized the scale of Harvey's crimes, while families testified about the deep emotional wounds left behind. Some family members pushed for the maximum sentences, wanting to ensure Harvey would never harm anyone again. Even Harvey's own relatives expressed disbelief. They described him as polite, quiet, and helpful. Nothing suggested the decades-long spree of murder that had occurred. The broader community was equally shaken. Hospitals, medical boards, and law enforcement faced scrutiny for failing to detect patterns of suspicious deaths. Public discussions focused on oversight, patient safety, and the disturbing psychology of someone who hides in plain sight for decades. Donald Harvey's story is a chilling reminder of how trust can be exploited. He used the uniform of a healer, the anonymity of hospital routines, and the vulnerability of patients to commit murder repeatedly without detection. Poison, suffocation, manipulation of medical equipment, he perfected each method to evade suspicion. Families lost loved ones, and a nation was horrified to learn the full extent of his crimes. Some killers leave obvious marks. Some leave trails hidden in plain sight. Donald Harvey left both, a lifelong pattern of deceit and death hidden behind a hospital smile. And when the uniform came off, when the doors were locked behind him in prison, the consequences finally caught up with him. But the scars he left behind remain, a haunting reminder that evil can wear a mask of trust, and the most ordinary faces can hide the darkest secrets.